Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, everybody. Welcome on into the Dragon's Den. My name's Digital Dragon, and Ready Street Pitch. What does that mean? Everything from printer unboxing, molds, got bamboo X1Cs straight out of the box. Then we have Vorons. We have do a lot of printer builds here. We also printing. Welcome on in, everybody. Doing well. Yeah, turn these lights off, throwing the camera off and or blinding me. Welcome on in, Sebastian Pool. Hello, hello, hello. How is your day going? Mine's going fairly well. It's been a good day overall. Good day over. Yes, everybody. Welcome on back. Are going to be playing with the Blackbox. Um, the bamboo spoiled you, brother predator. Um, the bamboos are spoiling me a little bit, but I will tell you this: the so let me so sorry about the mess down here. Dragoon 1 has been one of the champs. This is the one we got from Rocky Mountain Rep Rat Festival. It has pushed out a lot of my maker chips, but it's also pushed out all of the parts for our Millennium Mills Milo. So the blue is blue ASA glass filled from Fadis, and the black is ABS carbon fiber filled from Fadis. All of this was put through the AMS, believe it or not. And we even got some really tall prints. This is the counterweight for the Z-axis so that you can, this goes down in the C channel. You can fill it up with lead weight or epoxy resin, other things like that to provide dampening for the mill. But all of this was pushed through. All of it came out beautiful with no issues other than running out of filament on one of the prints that I borked. So yeah, it's been as you would say, a workhorse. The second bamboo has been pretty much just churning out maker coins for the show. I've done all the VZBot VZBot 235 parts was printed out on this machine as well. So yeah, it's been very nice. Been good additions to Dragon's Den. Put it that way. The Mark IV has also been turning out maker coins as well. Now that we have the MMU3 on it. Hey Glendon, welcome on in. And I plan on doing some more multicolor stuff. I do need to get back to tuning the Enraged Rabbit carrot feeder. But I've got two other ERCFA kits. I may actually print out the parts and build another one off stream so that I can put it on one of the other Vorons that's up here, because the ERCFA I did is downstairs on the 350 Trident, and I'm really not wanting to bring that back upstairs. Heavy, it's wieldy. Getting this downstairs next week to put it in the truck and take it to Murph is going to be fun, because this is going to be like a two-person lift to get this downstairs safely, and even that's going to be questionable safety because somebody's going to be going down backwards. Yeah. So the bamboos have spoiled me. They are really nice machines. They've been pretty much print and go. I've had very few with them, um, other than a filament breakage that that impacted the filament sensor, so it wouldn't else. But keep it heated up. Use a plastic pusher and push it through the nozzle yourself, and resume print and go. So it's been very nice. Um, yeah, let me. Actually, I'm going to go over here to the full display. So where we left off on the last stream was we had calculated the XY offsets. Here we were trying to do the Z offsets, I believe, and we were having issues. I have conquered that. So the Z offsets have been done. I then, the Z offsets here, really what you're doing is you probe you home the gantry, and when you run the macro that it tells you to run, it will move the Z end stop that's on the X gantry over to the sex bolt, touch it off. What it's doing there is getting the distance between the bed and the sex bolt. Then it will come over and it will grab each tool in succession and tap that tool off of the sex bolt to get the offset unique to each tool. Then it provides that information and you'll go through and include that in your file. Let's just say I spent a little bit of time on it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I took 8 attempts to finally get the Z offsets right, because after you set the Z offsets, then you go through and actually rehome the machine, and you use the paper test, and you pick up each tool and make sure that you're when you're getting the paper starting to be pinched by the nozzle, that you're within 0.1 to 0.15 on all 5 nozzles. When you're that close, that means you've got it done. Now, calculating the Z offset, easy enough. The issue is when you do that test, if it's not tight on the paper at between 0.1 and 0.5, there's a constant that you have to go through and update, which is this static offset variable, right? So trying to figure out which way to adjust that variable, and of course I went way too far and had to come back and then fine tune it. But once again, tedious, because you're not just doing it once, you're doing it 5 times. Hey, Rodney Mack, welcome on in. Then after that, I was trying to do a bed mesh. That is the next thing, because after you get that piece, it's now into a guide still in progress. So we needed to do a bed mesh. So there is a macro for bed mesh built in. It's under the compensation and calibration. When you do this, because you're not mapping a tool head, you're mapping using the clicky pro. You're using the Z and stop on the X gantry. So you don't need to have the tools heated up. You just need the heater. So I'll make that active. I'll bring that up to 60 degrees. And as that's warming up, what we're going to do is we're going to, let the bed get up to temperature, let it heat, heat soak for a little bit. And then we're going to come down here to compensation and calibration. And you'll see that there's a true bed leveling 32. That's not going to work for us, I don't believe, because if I understand that right, the G32, that's like Z tilt adjust. We have a single motor that's tied together with a rod, and basically it's the two sides of the Z axis are synced, right? So G32 doesn't do anything. Right? It doesn't have more than one motor to adjust. The G29 is running the bed mesh. Okay, you can do a G29 face S0, which is the same thing as doing just a G. It is run a bed mesh and save it as the. You can have different bed meshes. You can do a G29 S1, so I can run a bed mesh, and then rather than run a bed mesh at every print, in my starting G code, I could do a G29 S1, which would load the saved height map. If I wanted to get rid of the existing height map, I did something, I need to redo it. It would be a G29 S2. And that will, says disable mesh compensation. It nullifies your existing bed mesh, right? So then you'd have to run the G. I did this, I was trying to do this, and on this side of the bed, it kept stopping, saying that the probe or in stop was already triggered, meaning it didn't have enough Z. So by default, in our system folder under config, there's going to be a couple of things I want to show you. A couple of things to show you, which start with me. On the Z probe, this line right here, it basically says M558 P8 in IO3N. So this is that Z end stop on our gantry. And it originally said H1. Hey, Karen Chow, welcome on in. H1 is the dive height, which is set to 1 millimeter. Think Z hop and clipper. Right? As we're doing a bed mesh, you can set a Z height or a Z hop to raise the gantry or lower the bed a couple of millimeters to safely move from one position to another. That's what dive height is in RepRap firmware. So Kris has this set by default as H1, so 1 millimeter distant. So the bed moves 1 millimeter every time it would move a position on the bed mesh. So I increase this to 2. We have a speed of 500 and A5. That sets a 5x5 meshing. Right? You can either do an S number and set the physical amount of space like 20 millimeters, or you can give it I'm sorry, that's incorrect. A5 for this particular command, I'd have to double check. F500 is the probing speed. P16000 is the travel millimeters. The other command that's critical here is the M557 command here. This sets the bed mesh area, right? He already had this set, so it's X between 60, 302, Y between 50 and 295, and S36. So that means it moves 36 millimeters before or between each travel move. Okay, so that's what that does. So I increased the H2 from 1 millimeter to 2, tried to run a bed mesh, it finally succeeded. And my first bed mesh, and I just realized I didn't download it on um, this computer. I have to pull it up with, bear with me. My Discord is over on the other screen, so okay. So this was my first bed mesh. Now, mind you, X is red, so X is along the bottom. Y is, I'll say, front to back. Z is up. So you'll see that on the scale from 0.25, positive 0.25 to negative 0.25, we're on a slope. My bed was sloping from me to back of the printer. My bed was like this, and the maximum deviation was 0.5 millimeter. But because of the main deviation points, it was enough to trigger the end stop as it was moving around. So I had to do a couple of things. And some of those couple of things wound up being, yes, 1 week Pezliz. Actually, it's 1 week from, or wait, today is Thursday. Yes, 1 week. We will be leaving next Thursday. The Digital Dragon team will be leaving Thursday. We're going to drive somewhere into the lower side of Ohio and spend the night, and then drive in the rest of the way on Friday mornings. Get up, we can get a good night's sleep, get up, have some breakfast, get into Goshen around noon, set up and everything. So I needed to fix some. Talking to Kris, suggested that I could loosen the screws on this front cross member and just kind of physically pull it down a little bit beneath and re-screw it. And that's going to drop the front end of the bed. Well, I did that. And I got it lower, but I still wasn't there. Right? So I raised this side up a little bit, still wasn't there. Then I did something I can't do here, and I grabbed the image and I rotated it. Because this right here looks like it's tilting front to back. It's not just tilting front to back, there was a slight tilt this way. Right? So this corner is slightly lower than these two corners, and this corner is slightly higher than, right? So it's, you don't get it until you turn it the other way around. So then I got to thinking, and I knew it shouldn't have been a problem, but it is. these two kinematic bed mounts, one in the front and the one on this right side, should have been swapped. And I was just, oh, it's not going to be a big deal. It shouldn't impact it. Yes, it was. As soon as I swapped these two kinematic mounts, I loosened this up, did the same thing we did before, and took a 1-2-3 block, put it at the bottom, pushed everything up tight, tightened it back in, and I did that on all four corners. I ran my bed mesh, and lo and behold, this is my bed mesh. Now, I don't know about you, but that's a pretty flat bed mesh. Yeah, you would have shimmed the bed. Well, the problem is the bed is free floating on round balls. The bed is not hard mounted. If it was hard mounted or had springs, I could have shimmed the bed, but it's made to, the kinematic mount allows it so that when the bed heats up and the metal expands, rather than those mounting points being constrained, which causes it to taco, it's allowed to outside. So in doing that, when I reran the bed mesh, this is my new bed mesh here, and I'll pull it up actively. So the other thing is, in order to see the height map, you can see it's down here in the plugins section. You have to go into the plugin and actually enable it or start it, and then you can. No big deal. So we came in here to the plugins section, and where the height map is, I just click start and started the height map, and then it shows up down here. Click on that, and there's my height map. So we look at this height map. So this rear left corner, closest to our tool 0, is still a little low, but overall, when you're looking at this height, we're at a deviation of 0.059 at the lowest point to 0.093 at the high. So I can handle that. No, I can handle that deviation. If I wanted to, I could come over here to this side and really try and work on, maybe raising up the back of this cross member just slightly above being lined up with the bottom of the 20. But I'm not. If it can't bed mesh compensate on this bed, there's something mechanically wrong with the printer, right? So yeah, that's how you go through and do your bed mesh. So this has been on in for a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to home again. Okay. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to disable the bed mesh to clear out the bed mesh. Then I'm going to come in here and do a G29 again. It's going to come over here and start probing all of the bed. once again, right now it's still set for that 2 millimeter Z-hop. I should be able to drop it down to a 1 millimeter again now and have no problems. Hey, Evil Diesel, welcome on in. How are you doing today, my friend? Doing well. Hope you've been out there 3D printing all. You were still printing a drag racer. That's the thing I still need to do. I need to reprint my front wing for my drag racer because it's still in standard plastic. I make it cheap. Your motivation's still there. Check my schedule for Evil Diesel. I have a meeting at like 10:30 to 11. So come on over and chat some tomorrow. Need to bring Kalen, bring Kalen. I hope you mean your motivation has been in the ICU. Come on over and chat. I'd unfortunately gone into the office today. So yeah, bed meshing, it works just fine once you give it a little bit extra room it needs to move. But like I said, now that I've got it kinematic mounts in the right position, and I'm so distance so evened out, I should be able to drop that back down to a 1 millimeter dive height. Which will speed this up. Because the Z-axis is what's taking the drop up. So Karen, I was watching your stream the other night. It seemed like it kept buffering, and I thought it was Twitch, but I jumped over to a couple of other streamers, and it wasn't buffering. So I think it's something on your end with either your streaming software or something with Twitch. Yeah, on Tuesday when you were doing your emotes, so it was after my stream. Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure. Just because I know it does happen occasionally, and I had that issue, and I was finding that trying to connect via Wi-Fi from my streaming computer was giving me problems. And as soon as I took and wired up a Cat5 cable and ran it down the stairs, across the hallway, and into the master bedroom and plugged it directly in, I think I went 9 streams without a. Okay, you're wired up. There you go. Yeah. Um. Yeah. Okay, so we should have updated bed mesh. See if it was the same. So we probed an area of 466.6 centimeters squared, 49 points. Maximum deviation, so lowest spot was 0.155, highest spot was 0.112. Mean error is 0.011. RMS error is 0.0 millimeters. So once again, if our tool can't compensate for that, then something's wrong with the printer, because I've got larger deviations than that on some of my other printers. Print beautiful. So that part was done. So we'll say checked on bed mesh. Load filament. Okay. I've got a couple of filaments behind here on spools. I don't know if there's any, like, drastically required as far as loading filament, other than running your filament through and up into the tool head. There's just a spot there where it's just hard to get that one up and around. It just, I never dealt with a tool changer before, so it could just be, you know, this tight hoop in the filament path there. So it might be once I pick up the tool head, it'll be a little easier to get filament all the way up, down, and around. And I do have just 3 filaments sitting over here, so I'm just going to load up 3 of the tools. Oh yeah, that's the other thing, true, Liz, is shut down everything that you don't need, which is, I'll say, bad, because I've got a lot of things turned on right now as far as open applications. But we'll just say that I also have a lot of physical memory, and all of the drives on my streaming computer are NVMe, like M.2 solid state drives. That one feels like it's right up against the spool head. This is the only one that feels like and I can see I'm stuck right about right here, so it's not down in the tool head yet. If I take this and move it around so that it's not such a bend, I'm sure that I will be able to get it the rest of the way in there. Just the end on some of these. There we go. So filament is loaded to the top of the extruder gear on 3 of these. Prusa Slicer setup. Okay. So we need to play with Prusa Slicer. So we've got Prusa Slicer up. Yeah, like I said, this particular system, it's not massive for, like, it's not maxed out like, I'll say, Evil Diesel used to do on his rigs, and still does on one of his main rigs. But I think I've got 32 or 64 gig of memory on this particular computer, and I'm probably going to have to do a motherboard swap out because this motherboard doesn't have a TPM module, so I won't be able to upgrade this computer to Windows 11. So I'm going to have to do an update to the computer. But anyhow, we've got Prusa Slicer up. And of course, right now it's set up for my Prusa Mark IV with the MMU. So the 5 colors for an MMU. There is no preset for a black box. However, oh, thank you. What I do have is a slicer config file, Prusa Slicer config file that Breezy, KB3D Kris sent me. So we'll come up here and go to File, Import, and we want to import a config. Scroll down to wherever that config was, which is over here in my downloads. Double click on that and it comes up Prusa Slicer config BB, right? So black box with the other thing I'm going to do now is, now that we're here, I want to go into printer settings tab. And we'll just take a quick look. So this is set for 295 on the X, 90 on the Y. And I do have a model file that he sent, so we're going to load that. And we're going to grab the Prusa Slicer bed model underscore PL. Okay to save that. We have a Z height max of, currently only says that there's 2 extruders. We actually have 5 tool heads. So we're going to increase this to 5. We are rep wrap printer. It's not configured to show any. I want to make sure that we can get thumbnails. And I'm not going to change anything else at this. All I want to change number of tool heads, and then make sure that we get some thumbnails. And we need to save this because we made some changes. Oh, I think there will be something. So this is the other piece that's going to be critical, was getting the start and end codes. So start G code here would be embedded in the file E28 home, E29, which is our bed mesh, 91 that relative movements, E1 Z5 drop the bed slightly, E90 to store absolute movement, 92 0 to reset the extruder, and then basically we start the G. On the NG code, goes through and does things. Now the thing that I was asking Kris about, and I haven't seen a reply yet, was no tool changer G code in here. So that tells me that all of the tool changes, it says it needs a different extruder. it's going to tell it to pick up a different, or it's going to tell it to use one of the 5 extruders, and that's going to prompt RepRap firmware to run its macros to drop off one tool head and pick up another. So we're not leveraging decode slicer for the tool head. What we're going to do is just have it call out the requirement for a different tool head to inject either a different color or material based on RepRap. In the extruder section, other thing of note that we need to look at is the nozzle diameter. Kris is running 0.4. All of ours are running 0. So we just need to go ahead and change the okay? And we're going to save this. And I'm going to rename this. Mat, keep the black box with mesh. Filament settings, we're going to keep those standard. And so now you see that we've got our pretty bed mesh for the bed that shows the bed gantry. Nice thing is you see that these are your Z mounts or bed mounts. Got your single kinematic mount in the front, which means your other ones are back here on the sides. So it just helps you orient how this is going to print. And the way this is printing, if this is the side facing me, that means the purge tower is going to be over here in the back left corner. So just fairness. I believe, I'm not sure, but I believe if it's going to use multiple tools, that if it does anything over there with that, I don't even think it does anything with the sex bolt and validating the offset of a tool, except when you run the macro. So next up, we've got filament up to the gears on 3 of our extruders. So we've loaded filament. We have Prusa Slicer set up. We need to got start and end G code provided in the Prusa Slicer setup from Kris. And then it says test print. Offer an STL with photo result. We weren't given an STL, and then there would be standard tuning procedure. So we'll have to go and calibrate our first temp towers, flow test, and flow test for nozzle. So each material, each nozzle for hot end. Yeah. So everything times 5 because we have 5 tools. So what I was starting to do before stream, because really what we need to do is we're going to heat up the hot ends and we will fully load and do a little bit of filaments. And then I was looking for something out here on printables. I was looking for like an image test print that I could pull down and just test out doing color swaps, 3 colors. That's all I have right now. Colors. STLs. STL. Like, isn't there's a pressure MMU test file, is like just 5 colors and a circle or something? There we go. Something simple. Trying to print with multiple colors. Don't want to do really crazy. Something small and what catches people to a like one of those puzzles. Other thing that I'm going to do right now is going to switch on, put into state. Three heaters. Go ahead and get them going. Ready? We don't have a like load filament map. We're going to come over here and we're going to open up that file that we just downloaded. Looks like it is using 3 different. Currently, I think 3 is gray, 2 is a blue. I'm red green color deficient. Be nice. Don't yell at me. That'll show 3 different colors and gives us an idea of what we're like as far as our model here. Go ahead and basic settings. I don't really think I need to change any. Slice that. Export. Let's desktop. Come over here, jobs, and we'll upload G-code files of that. got a G-code file up there, but our filaments are not actually loaded just yet. Zero idea if we load any filament, do any type of filament configs in. Um, oh, hey, look. Empty. Good. Don't know. Not sure if we need to do anything here. Actually, do any type of config for the filaments to get things to run. This might actually be our first hang up. Need to actually do any type of filaments in here. Interesting. So our tool heads are warmed up. Going to drop our bed down a bit. Want to pick up one of our tools. I'm going to start with tool 3. Okay. And 2, just extrude some filament. Just to basically get it loaded. Extrude. Filling it. Filling on the filament. Hey, Daddy Wazzy. And quite honestly, I'm not sure if it's even attempting to drive the extruder. Or if it's even moving in the right direction to be. They have. Sure if I ever checked. I did. Let me macros will unlock. Just going to do this manually at the moment. That should be going in the right direction. provided we've got our filament, we should be going in the right direction. Yep. Um, Apparently I really should have added some with K Breezy. Waiting on actually setting up. So I do know that the extruder is moving. I'm just not getting any filament. Not sure if it's just not enough tension on the filament itself in the idler. Hey Maker Viking, welcome on in. Welcome on in. We're trying to go the next step, which is actually pushing plastic. And as part of that, we're trying to load filament. Not having a good day of it yet. Full head. Full head. Up against the ear now. Tell it to extrude. Not taking any in. Kris! Open latch, make sure your filament is actually at the gears and not stuck above. Okay. So open the idler. That's what I was looking for. Now, Kris, do I need to do anything under the filament section of the RepRap firmware? And it's at the gear. Oh, so open the door up, hit extrude, and realize that it's going the wrong direction. So that would be why we're not loading filament. It's going in the wrong direction. So system, big G, come down to our motor. And the Z motor is, which one's the Z motor? Okay, which one's the Z motor? Oh, Z motor. So this command here tells you what order they're in. So Z is 2. I need to come up to motor 2 here and change that S1 to an S. You're right. Let's do that right. E motor, motor's 0 dot, that one. Tell you, don't screw anything up. Use those changes. Open and edit E motor, motor 0.3, at S0 to S1 here. Change. Okay, I will save, run config file. I don't think the drop is set up on this screen, and I don't think I can copy it and change it during the stream. Yeah, please be safe, Kris. Yeah, emote or not Z. Yeah, that would be bad. We need to bring all of these active again up to temp. Chances are I'm going to tell it to home, or I'm going to tell it to extrude, and it's going to tell me it can't because it's not home. That dashboard are up to extrude's not there because nothing's homed. So do not home the printer with the tool head on. Just do a tool unlock. I'm go ahead and idler mounted back on the tool dock. Home all. Okay. And once again, we're going to drop the bed down just to be able to load up the filament. I'm going to grab tool 3. Now, we'll heat it up at 100. Still not feeling it grab. Hey, Royal Nomi, welcome on in. We are trying to get plastic or filament loaded in 3 of our tool heads so that we can try and do our first print on our. So not sure what's going on, but it appears that I'm not able to get to tool head. See if I've got something wonky tip. Tip forming. Okay. There is filament physically in the. Verified with mine own eyes. Yep, Royal Number, woohoo! Now I need to do research, which I had not done yet, on how to do E-step calibration in RepRap firmware. Got you up here. I know it's not close, but let me bring you down here. Oh, work with me. Hopefully you can see we've got our first little bit of plastic out of one of our nozzles. So that nozzle is now loaded with filament. Dock that tool and grab tool 2. Just going to tell it to switch tools. That. Got tool 2. And we're going to kind of do the same thing. We're going to make sure that we're close in there. We're into the gears. And we're going to tell it to extrude 100. There we go. The gears have that. I'll probably extrude a little extra on this one just because it took a bit to get down and engaged. There we go. There's our blue. Hope you guys can see that down here. Changing views might. So got blue loaded as well. Now we're going to drop that tool off and grab tool 1. Remember to hold these wires up. You can figure out a good way of up for now. I do a I want to do it around the filament tube, but I wonder if I can do it around the stainless steel spring wire. All I'm trying to do is keep these pulled up and away so that they don't flop out and get hung up. Okay, so with filament loaded, I should be able to come up and say grab 1 now. And then we'll do the same thing. We'll tell it to extrude. We'll extrude 100 again. Should hopefully be rewarded with some red coming out there. These are some pretty thick extrusions. Once again, all of these have 0.06 on them. So that moves a little bit. There's our initial whatchamacallit footing. We're going to go ahead and put tool 1 back. Okay, so there's our initial purges. And we do have a file loaded up. What we're going to do is we're just going to grab this job, highlight it, and start file. And we'll see what happens. Like I said, I'm assuming we may have to do some baby stepping here or there and stuff. But for now, yeah, let's just take a look and see what we get. Going to do a bed match. Pull this camera back out of the way. In fact, I'm going to put this camera up here. grab the other camera and should be able to put it over here without an issue. Famous last words. So, how's everybody doing? Is everybody getting final preparations made for birth? I know I've been kind of going mad trying to get more coins finished. Um, I'm thinking, I don't think there's anything else that I need to print other than the CPU front fairing for or front wing for the drag racer. I think the rest of what I need to do is just get ready for, it's going to be like packing. I'm going to have to do some more signage for the table and the printers because we will be bringing quite a number of printers. And I had talked about you're trying to print your TPU front end. Okay. I'm going to be printing it out here probably sometime this weekend. I think I will go and print those out on the Mark IV. And I know I need to print at least one. If I can, I'll print more than one Evil Diesel, just so we have a spare if something gets jammed up, or if you're unable to get it to print successfully and I am, then boom, we've got it covered. But yeah. One of the other things, like I said, is I'm just working on the signage for the table. We're going to have what should be plenty of maker chips done by the show. And then it just becomes, all right, getting people there, getting stuff packed in the car, which is really going to come down to these are the printers we are taking and how they get in the car, and then how many other printers can we get in there? They were probably a little low. Is there, how do we baby, um, anybody know? Not see the ability to actively baby. That thing is right at the hour on the panel. Oh yeah, that would make sense. I keep forgetting I have a panel due down here. Yeah. Looks like it's still up. Okay, I like I'm cancel the print or stop the print. Oh, pause print, print. Ah, there's a Z baby stepping as well, right? That we put 3 away. Clean the stuff off the bed here. Yeah, it was just going way too low for my taste. It didn't gouge the bed at all. It was just too low. So on a clipper, you would do the baby stepping, and then you could save that. I'm assuming in RepRap firmware, I would have to go in and manually change the decode offset. Okay, yeah, I can do that. Do it right next to the model to make it shorter, and I can do that. I can do that. We can redo that model. Do something like that. Slice it. That's good. Code. Yep. Yep. Here. Good job. File. G code files there. Kris, if you can, one, thanks for telling me panel do. Two, how can we, how's the best way to change that D offset? Assuming that in static variable for permanency, so if I had to increase the offset by 0.2, do I increase the static variable by 0.2? value and nope, there's no note in it. Um, yeah. Does it say in? I don't think it said in the macro either, because that's in the probe tool. But if you update it in the static variable in the probe tools macro, do you have to reprobe all the tools? Yeah. Yeah. So, yep, Pesla's 1 week away. 1 week countdown. You got all your stuff ready to pack and go, Kris? As far as what you're taking for the booth and stuff? Yeah, Timor, we love first prints. That's what we're trying to do right now is our first print, and we were too low. So what we're going to do is come over to our jobs. We've re-uploaded our job. I'm going to right-click it and say Start File. And I know that I'm going to have to make some changes, probably. So let me, while it does its homing, I know I moved it up 0.2. So and yeah, so in the status page, Kris, and the GUI, there is a baby stepping in here. It only limits you to the positive or negative 0.05. And while it's going through and doing this, come back over to full display for a second. And so job information, the total height is 2.6 millimeters. Each layer height is at 0.2. Gives you the filament usage by color on the millimeters. And then it tells you that it was printed or generated by Prusa Slicer 2.74 Win64. So it was done on a Windows Mac and the date and time. Gives you some good information. Calculated date or collected data on warm up time. We were already warmed up, so it started. Fan 2, by the way, is lower that down. Doesn't kill my night vision. Fan 1 is our radiator fan that helps to keep all of our tool heads cool and at temp. Fan 0 is the part cooling fan that's underneath the extruder motor on the scan. And I'm not sure if you noticed, Kris, but I did put a KB3D plate on. I took it off Iron Dragon because this didn't ship with a build plate. Have you gotten your build plates in yet? I know that was one of the things that was still on back order from this kit was the build plate. My Ember prototype one hasn't arrived yet. It says like a couple of days ago that it handed off from Chats or whatever, mail service in Canada to U.S. Postal Service. And U.S. Postal Service has been telling me that it's in Blaine, Washington, state of Washington, since like the 6th. So I have no idea where it's at. Knowing my luck, it's going to give me an updated location, like it's out for delivery. So yeah, so we'll go back to the other screen over here. So we get more on this, us on the web interface. Also means that Stephen Poole's drop should. The Z-axis is very smooth and quiet on here. The acceleration's pretty good. But yeah, I'm curious. You know, I want to get some print time on this. Hopefully before I unplug it and take it to Murph. I want to be able to get some prints off of this. So fingers crossed we can get some prints going on it, and I should have a couple of additional troubleshooting people with Kris and Hoity at Murph. So the height. That is. Now, mind you, we haven't done any tuning, so I haven't tried to tune E-steps or anything like that. we're just trying to push plastic. I'm having some issues over here on the right side with it not sticking, so I'm going to pause and stop again. Otherwise, we're going to have an issue with it. And emergency stop, because it apparently is going to try and rehome itself. It will not be able to do so. Yay. Do a tool unlock so that we don't drive our tool head into the bed. Don't want to be like Kris and bend our obsidian revo nozzle. We'll get this off. Just going to clean the bed real fast. Okay. Bed's cleaned. I'm going to move it over towards me. Feels like it's continuing to go over here to the right a little bit more than I would like. Upload done. Start file. We'll keep trying. All we can do, right, is just keep trying. Yeah, Karen, I didn't have a lot of time last night to play with it, but I will be using one of the banners that you created for me. Thank you, thank you. We'll be getting that done at least on the main screen. Thanks for being in here a little bit while you're driving, Kris. Please be safe. Oh, and Liz, um, you had said you were going to make reservations for dinner. Did you make those reservations for dinner on Friday night? Or are you making them next week? Okay, Liz must be running around. Either taking a power nap before she gets up and streams later, or dishes and housework. Now, Royal Nomi, it's still just going to be you and Peanut going to Murph, right? And are you bringing anything, or are you just going to be there? Once it gets start to gap a little. Good news is it isn't low enough that it's driving into the bed, but um, it is a little low. So right now, it's looking pretty good. Still on that right hand side, it's lifting up on the right hand. Hey, Tugboat, welcome on in. How's it going? We actually have our first plastic coming out of the nozzle. Whatever reason, we still like rising up on the right hand side over here. This is a quick little 3-color print. Okay, so something we got to be aware of. This might be what part of the problem is. So we've got a 0.6 nozzle. and I didn't even think to check. It's setting the default extrusion width to 0.4. So in essence, it's trying to under extrude or make a line width smaller than the nozzle. So that might impact our printability. Also, your infill pattern is stars. Tell you, don't trust people who send you config files. Double check. I'm just teasing. I did see your DMs on Discord. I was thinking through it. And I'm trying to. The one thing that caught my attention when you did that, and I'm gonna come over here real fast and check. Is whether or not these extrusions, if I tapped them for M5 or M6. Um, 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 um. So I got a M5 screw here, and they are tapped for M5, so that's good. So these are proper extrusions. So that was my biggest thing that I just got to thinking. I was like, oh, if those are M6, those wouldn't have been on the standard bomb. They're M5. So you should have some M5 button heads that are probably anywhere from 12 to 16 millimeters for the extrusions. Should have so you were buying the screen. Bring you guys in here a little bit closer. See where we're at. This is just a small 3-color piece because I only have 3 colors loaded up. So yeah, the only other thing that it dawned on me of is I didn't print a mount for it. So I will have to figure out the mount I used again and print a mount for it and email that to you. Or not email it, but I'll have to mail a mount to you because I'll have to print that in the electrolytic deuterium for you. But I can get that and get that mailed out to you once I'm back from Midwest. If not before. Yeah, I just want it to be, color scheme matters, dude. Or at least to me. So I feel bad. So I'm going to have to try and get that squared away. But yeah, the what am I thinking of? I don't think there's anything that would be off by or not off or that you would need. One thing you can do though, Tugboat, Canrog, okay, Canrog, Kanrog, has started streaming on YouTube, and Canrog is the actual designer of the Rook 2020. So he's on the Rolahan design team, and Canrog is responsible for the Rook 2020 files and the update to the Mark II. So if you want, he's done a build series and he's doing like tuning series on it right now. So if you want to get started, you can watch his videos. He should have all of his videos up on his YouTube channel rather than wait for me to get back from Murph. So Rolahan, I don't know if he did the Mark II Rook, but I do know that Canrog has just been doing it because he was streaming today doing some tuning and stuff, going through the tuning process. Rook 2020 Mark II. Okay, yeah, the frame's pretty easy. I mean, it's standard blind joints. And of course, the four are the four uprights. Just make sure that you grab the one that's drilled on both corners. So one end's drilled both corners. The other end, two of them are drilled both sides. They have there's two that only have one through hole at one end for the blind joint. That is the front uprights. The only difference because I didn't want to add extra holes that didn't need to be there. But yeah, other than the fact that first layer adhesion issues, right now my current offset is at 0.1 in the positive direction based on the changes that I've made. So I did some baby stepping and the current offset is positive 0.1. I'll need to make that change in the configs. I just don't know. I'll have to play with it as far as which direction to make the change, to the negative or to the positive. Me and Kris both were like, I did see that there wasn't a build plate. Kris, if you're still in and listening, I don't know. So you got the Polymide LDO bed kit, right? Um, Open that up all the way and look through that box and see if there's a build plate in there. If not, we can get one sent to you. I think I've got several B0 build plates. So if I've got a spare one here, I will get it in the mail to you. If not, I'll make sure that I'll make sure to get one heading your way from KB3D. We're going to be doing some business at the show anyhow, because Yeah, he keeps posting new toys on his website. I swear he's figured out when my paycheck arrives. So he's just trying to streamline when to put new stuff up on the web page to get my paycheck. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that you had one. Because yeah, you said you were buying Ember Prototypes one. You getting your logo on it? Yeah, that's what I was saying. You should like personally. Because your plan is to take that into schools and stuff. I would go and get one from Ember Prototypes with your tugboat logo on it. I think that'll add to it as you go into the schools because it'll have the logo on the deck panel and then that. You can figure the SVG out. Um, Send them the file, or actually, yeah, just send them the artwork that you have, because that's what I did with my logo, and you may have seen the posting on that he did on Twitter with my logo. So he should be able to work um, with your PNG logo. And I think what I can do is send you. Actually, let me send you the file that I used to create the deck panel. Yeah, that was the issue, was trying to find a font that was universal or would work. It's neat to get cool fonts and stuff like that, but unless you get those font files and can use it on other branding, it's a pain in the butt. Oh yeah, the so I'm trying to think on the clipper screen itself. I just went through and EasyBot has on the so in the VZBot GitHub for the 330 size, they've got um, Clipper like mainsail OS themes, and they also have Clipper screen theme and like boot up videos. Well, so I've actually used those to customize my VZBot Clipper screen boot up sequence and like the Clipper screen background and stuff like that. So you may want to look at those files on the VZBot website to give you some ideas on what you would need to play around with and how. Yeah, so that would be kind of cool. Because normally I go in, I like change the colors. Like I've gone in and used the Polymaker. So Polymaker filaments have the hex code for the color. I've I've literally gone into my Clipper screen, changed the color theme to the colors that I used on the printer using codes. But yeah, um, like I said, it's the VZBot GitHub site. They don't have it on the VZBot 235. Go in the VZBot 330 size and look at the files there, and they've got stuff in there for the mainsail theme and um, uh, the Clipper screen themes and stuff as well. Hey Ozzy, how's it going? So that's the thing, Ozzy, is the if you remember right, we got rid of the hard plastic gears and we swapped them out for let me switch camera roll. So this is a printed one, but remember we swapped out the hard edged gears, and these actually have a rounded over edge on them. And it's that rounded over edge that's critical. That's why we swap these gears out on each of the tool heads, is because that rounded over profile helps any misalignment. It can either ride up slightly or it'll move that extruder slightly, the gearing, to mesh with the SLS printed um, drive gear on the extruder motor. That's why we changed those gears out from the stock gears and why we're using an SLS printed drive gear and an SLS printed um, main gear, is to allow those to self-align and mesh. If we were using the metal drive gear on the motor side, it would actually cut the plastic as it ran in. And that's how it meshes. So right now we've just got 3 random filaments loaded. We've got a Polar Filaments red, we've got a Polymaker blue, and a Polymaker, I think it's a steel gray. And other than needing to adjust the first layer height in a positive 0.1, and I've got to figure out how to save that offset. Yeah, we're doing good. Doing good. So we haven't had any failures of a tool head change yet. Everything's printing well. The one issue that I have is I'm looking at this going, why does this feel like it's off? I use the file from the Prusa Slicer I&I file from K-Breezy. And the issue with that is while I caught it on the printer settings itself on each extruder, I went and changed these to 0.4 or from 0.4 to 0.6. I didn't change the advanced properties in here for the line width. So I have a 0.6 nozzle trying to do 0.4 millimeter line width. Makes it a little bit more difficult. It can do it, but it's not optimal. So normally you want these to either be the nozzle width or like I've got 0.6 nozzles, so you want it to be either 0.6 or 0.65 on your line width, right? So got that squared away for the next iteration of this print. But other than that, yeah, it's printing and pushing plastic well. I haven't done E-step calibration. I really should do an E-step calibration on all 5 tool heads, because each one of the tension knobs is slightly different, and they have different filaments. You may have one filament that's got a standard PLA and then another one that has a silk in it. Well, the silk is going to slip in the gears just a little bit. So you need to be able to account for that, and you account for that in the E-steps. So okay, yeah, got you there. So yeah, back over here. We'll but Yeah, and I'll say probably the hardest part that I've had so far was just the manual kind of ends with the do a bed mesh, and I'm not used to RepRap firmware, so I'm like, I don't know where to go to try and do a bed mesh. So chatting with K Breezy after Tuesday's stream, I figured that out, and we ran a bed mesh. I had some issues getting a bed mesh to go through, so I needed to increase what's called dive height, which is like the Z hop that is done on a clipper machine probing sequence. So I increased that from 1 millimeter to 2 millimeters. And I was able to get a bed mesh and then realized that my bed uh, height map was kind of ugly. Um, our current height map on this bed right here is lowest point is a 0.22, highest point is a 0.14, and our mean deep error is 0.025 millimeters. So overall, we're pretty good, and it's compensating very well for a sub point 0 something bed mesh. I can still tweak this. Now, mind you, when I got my, what I will say is an ultra flat um, bed mesh that I had posted, my bed had been at 60C for a couple of hours at that. So it was well heat. Um, but yeah, that's better than some of the other printers. Here's our current print status. And I haven't modified or adjusted any speeds. These are the stock profile speeds that I got from K Breezy. Um, the couple of changes that I have made to the configuration here um, have been, you know, I changed the name to Tiamat. So this is our machine name. Tiamat is a five-headed dragon from Dungeons and Dragons lore. It's a five-headed chromatic dragon. So this is a five-headed tool changer. You know, this is the dragon den. Everything's either named dragon or has dragon in it. And so Tiamat it is. We've changed directions on our motors, right? Standard stuff as you're trying to do something. You'll notice that I put notes in here on when I change things so I can quickly search for things that have been changed. I swapped the motors. You could physically do cables, or you could go in and just swap the order. So motor 0 is Y, motor 1 is X on the board. So no big deal. What else? We have, here's where I made a note of updated the drive height, the dive height. So this is the Z probe. And so the H variable on here is the probing height or the dive height. So between probing points, that's how much it moves the bed down or the extruder up or the gantry up when it does its move. Okay, Tugboat, thanks for the lurk. At 1 millimeter, I was having collisions with, well, I don't want to say collisions as bad collisions, but the Z probe would move and be triggered already. So it was failing the bed mesh. So I just increased the height and that's where I was able to get that issue out. I can move that back down to 1 millimeter now that we're good. Grid was defined by K Breezy. We tuned our heaters. So we've tuned all of 5 heaters. I probably note on everything that later. What else? Offset was calibrated. The X and Y offsets were calibrated using the CXC. We did that on stream. The Z offsets I did off stream because I finally got everything working. Well, we started doing it on stream and I got it working and got all the Z offsets done off stream. That is most likely where I'm going to make the change from the baby step. So I will come in here and I will update the Z parameters and change them by 0.1. I just don't know which direction. And that's it. I mean, and those offsets, kids, I mean, that's calibration that you're going to have to do with any of these printers. So really, I haven't changed anything significantly here in the config.g file. Whoops. There was something fans. This is the big change that I made was the fans section here. And I provided these changes over to Kris, so they'll be uploaded in future in the GitHub repository for people. By default, there was only 2 fans listed. Fan 0, which is the part cooling fan at the bottom of our gantry here, and then fan 1. Fan 1 is actually your lighting, okay? Your PWM setting for your lighting. There was no other fan called out, which meant the 12-volt cooling fan for the radiator never came on. So I did some looking, realized that, made a comment to Kris to let him know. And what we've done now is fan 0 is the part cooling fan. Fan 1 is the hot end cooling fan, aka the on off for the 12-volt fan on the radiator that sits right underneath the pump on the left side. And then fan 2 is actually the PWM for our lighting. Okay. And we did that because normally on Marlin, Clipper, and everything, fan 0 is always part cooling. Fan 1 is always the hot end fan. So that made more sense there. I don't have the water cooling fan temperature controlled just yet, and I'm not sure if I can. So, like normally I would set up like a Nevermore to kick on at anytime the bed's heated up over 80 degrees, right? Because that means I'm going into a hotter temp or a hotter temp filament like ABS, and I don't need to run it when I'm doing PLA or PET. I don't need to run that filter all. It's one, it's extra noise, and two, it kills the overall life of those fans. Why run it if I? What I was reading is doing temperature controlled on the fan works for the tool head. The problem is if I'm not using tool head 0 and I set the fan up to tool head 0, then that fan doesn't come on, even though I'm using tool head 3 and 4 for an ABS print. Right, so that would be the issue with doing a temperature controlled. All right, and 3's not pushing back all the way, so I need to look at 3 at. So yeah, I need to be careful of that because that cooling fan is used for the active tool as well as all the idlers or all the tools that are idling on the toolbar that are currently um, heated. So right now we've got 3. We have 1 that's active and 2 in standby that are sitting over here loaded and up at temp. You'll notice that 4 and 5 aren't at temp because they're not being used for this particular print. So if it's gauging it by a specific tool and that tool's not active for that print, then it may not come on at all. And that would be the issue. Okay, so our print is done. And we've got our first successful print. I'll bring you guys in a little bit closer just so we can look at it from the top. See our surface finish. Focused. Here we go. Not too shabby for the first print off of a brand new printer on a tool changer using RepRap firmware, which I've never used before this build. So I'm happy with that. We do need to make a couple of quick changes based on the conversation I was just having with myself of wanting to throw some. Once again, this is not, making notes like this is not required. I do this for myself. This is, I've been in the IT world for a while. This is, we would refer to as self-documented code. I may even come up here to the top and add some more notes like I do on my clipper machines and identify, the boards that are being used, how I have the board configured and stuff like that. That way it's really simple for me to come in and get my mind wrapped around it. And not sure how to do it here. I may have to manually do it. I know on Clipper, I've got several of my printers set to auto update to um, uh, GitHub. I don't make those public, but I keep them on GitHub so I have backups of the configs if I ever have a catastrophic issue with one of my Raspberry Pis. So I'm going to come back over to the big camera. Just because it's the better camera. So once again, here's our top surface of the print. Could be a little bit cleaner. Like I said, I haven't done any extrusion, like E-step calibration. I haven't done any extrusion flow calibration yet or anything like that. First layer. So this is the right side of the print towards the back of the printer. And it did lift up a little bit there as well, but it wasn't catastrophic to it. So we let it ride. But all in all, I'm happy. Changing tools with no issues. Um, there's the print. There's the size of our purge block. As you can tell, this is not like a solid purge block either. So definitely not as wasteful as a print on the Bamboo Labs X1 where you've got the purge and the poop. And we're going to rerun this. So once again, this is, see some gaps. Yes. Anyhow, there's some gaps in the top layers. Once again, that's running a 0.6 nozzle with a 0.4 layer width. That will affect the line quality. So I've resliced this using a 6.6 wall or width. So once we do this, I will re-upload that file and we'll reprint it, trying to match the nozzle size to the nozzle line width to the nozzle piece. Trying to think if there's anything else. We wanted to change the Z offsets, 0.1. So negative, this is meaning that it is lower than the Z probe by that amount. We're going to take this to Z height. That means it has to come I think I have to increase it by point to make this 0.7. 0.8. Make a note that I increase offset value 0.1. So took it further to the negative. And by the way, you know, make notes as you go through these builds, especially as you're doing these things. You know, we've got all the notes on the different offsets and stuff we were working on. It's definitely worth doing that so that you understand when you make these changes. So okay. So I got that and I made the note. So if we feel like it's lower and we have to increase it again, then we know to make the change in the opposite direction. So either one of these is basically doing the same thing. I am going to do a restart of the game board. How's it going, Mr. Wizix? Okay, real fast is fan and big G. It is fan 2 down here. So this sets fan 2 is to this pin, and then the next line sets that fan starting off as 0.5, so at half power. I'm going to drop that by default down to 0.1 or 10% power. And the H value here is whether or not it's a thermostatically controlled fan. So whether it's tied to a heater. Save that, and these should pop back on again, but dear God, a lot. Hey Westry, how's it going? By the way, sis, we've pushed plastic. That's the top. Bottom. So we're working through a couple of different things. We had to so we got our slicer profile from Kris, and I had changed the one. He only has 2 extruders defined or heads defined. I defined all 5, and I went through and set all 5 to a 0.6 nozzle, but failed to remember that I need to go into the actual print settings and change the line width from 0.4 to 0.6. So I was trying to do a 0.4 line width, wall width, with a 0.6 nozzle. It does it, it just doesn't do it very well. We're going to try and run this again. And once again, we're using 3 tools. So tool head 0, which is our E3D V6 standard heat block and nozzle. Well, titanium heat break, nickel copper heater block, and a SliceWorks Engineering 0.6 gamma nozzle. And then the other 4 remaining tools are the high flow heater blocks, so the higher wattage heater cores for Revos, and 0.6 obsidian nozzles. So I should be able to run any filament I want through these, up to, of course, like a 300C range. Which, by the way, Kris, if you're listening to this, I did increase the heater limit. So that's something under config G. That's got to remember where. So we've got maximum temperature values. Oh, there we go. It's the M143 H4 S300. So this sets the limit for a heater. It's currently set to 285C. Here's the issue. You need to hot tighten standard nozzles. Right? The Revos were good. Those are hand tightened. But the E3D V6 or any other standard nozzle, right? If you're using the E3D V6 or a Barra smoothbore, you're using a standard nozzle. You have to hot tighten those. They're supposed to be hot tightened 285C. So by setting a limit at 280, if you go to set it to 285 to be able to hot tighten your nozzle, it'll error out as soon as you hit 280. If you set it to 285, guess what? It's still going to error out because you're always going to overshoot on that heat up. So set it to 300 so that when you bring it up to 285 to do your initial hot tightening of your nozzle, it can do that safe overshoot. Let it come back and set gonna say solidify, but yeah, let it just coalesce or whatever at the 285, and then hold your heat block and use your torque wrench to tighten. Yeah, set the torque of your nozzle. That way you don't get a nozzle leak. So that's another thing I'm going to talk to Kris about is those need to be defaulted to 300, and maybe a note that after you hot tighten nozzles to go back and change that limit. So that could be a check. We need to close out of here so we can be ready to baby step if we do. And I don't think we're going to need to. I think that was it. I think we moved it in the correct location. Definitely did. And hey, who would have guessed it? Changing the line width from 0.4 to 0.6. You're running a 0.6 nozzle. Also took care of the under extrusion issue that was causing us to have a lift up on the right hand side. Hey, Jedi Spidey, how's it going? Jedi Spidey, this is the second print. We've already done one successful print. In fact, we changed. Going back over to the camera that's right over here. This is what I wanted. So you can see what's going on from this side camera over here, but this was our first print. Whoops. Print. So this was our first printer. Worked out well. We didn't have any issues with any tool changes. We did have a layer width issue, and that's I did correct the base configuration for a 0.6 nozzle. I have a 4.4 nozzle, but what I didn't do was correct the print setting to account for a 0.6 nozzle. So we were running a 0.4 line width with a 0.6 nozzle, which is going to lead to some. Okay, Westery, tell me I said hello. Is she already eaten all the treats? I know that's probably a dumb question. She probably ate them. If you didn't ration her, she probably would have eaten them all in the first day. While this is going, I'm going to bring you guys in here just to show you that thing doesn't focus. First layer is going down beautifully. Maybe a little over extruded still, but like I said, I have not tuned any of the E steps or anything like that. But Kris, we've already got one print. Once again, this was printing at a 0.4 layer height with a 0.6 nozzle. So that would be another issue as to why our first layer filled up a little bit on this. But correcting the print setting versus the printer settings fix that problem. And then remember we had baby stepped 0.1. I went in and increased the negative Z offset. So instead of negative 0.16 whatever, I made it negative 1.7, and that was it. So whatever you offset by, you just go in and increase that offset by, that, make the negative number more negative. That makes. And the only other thing I need to do is the third one is getting pushed off a little bit. So I'm not, I think it's the, I think I just need to push it back like a millimeter more. So I'll update that macro. Not the macro, this. That's in the post file. Right? So I'm just going to increase this like 1 millimeter. For tool 2, which is the third tool, to make sure it gets back. And I think part of it also is the silicone sock. So one other thing I want to show you real fast, Kris. See darn it. Oh no. Okay. Yeah, I'll take a picture and send it to you. It looks like we need to have the ability to lower these down a little bit more so that we can rate. Well, in my case, my silicone, and I'll show you this when we get to Murph. I had to lower the silicone all the way down, which means the top of the obsidian nozzle is right at the top of the print of the printed part. So I'm getting some heat deformation of the print. So I'll take a quick picture and send that to you, and then you can see it face to face when we get there. Steve also noticed this on his, yeah. Okay, there we go, yeah. So all it is these wipers need to be made a little bit longer so they drop down. And then that'll let us raise the silicone up some more so it doesn't touch it. Hey, Kris, did you hear what Luke was trying to tell you earlier? I forget what he said. Yeah, I forgot what I said, Tugboat. No, Kris, the other thing here that we need to update in our system config.g is for our heaters, you set your defaults to 280, which is bad, right? They need to be set to at least 300 by default, because anything that's using a standard nozzle, you have to hot tighten it. And you should be hot tightening it at 285C. So if it's set at 280, as soon as you put in 285 and it hits it, it's going to fail out. And then if you set it to like 285, you're going to overshoot. You'll always overshoot, especially before you've pin tuned it. So set it to 300 as the max allowable, which should work on all of these standard thermistors anyhow. And then that way you can raise it up to 285, let the temperature the only thing that's popping in my mind is solidify at that 285, let it heat soak for a little bit, and then hot tighten your nozzles. So no big deal. I figured out where to make it, but these are the notes that I'm trying to write down and get to you. And I think what I'm going to do is just make the notes in this config file and send you this config G. Yeah. Because that'll make sense, or that'll make more sense. So you talk about son-in-law. Yeah, I've skipped a step. Something hung up and I skipped a step somewhere. So I need to stop this. Status. And the other thing, we need to get a cancel G code that drops the bed. So I just canceled, and as soon as I do that, does it let me drop the bed? That's good. But when you cancel, we need something that locks the tool. Yeah. We've got to fix the cancel so it drops the tool, because right now the fear is you leave the tool on here and you don't think about it, and then you have to home all, and as soon as you home all, it's going to drive the nozzle into. So macros, or come to the dashboard, full unlock, manually put this back. Okay. I caught on something and it skipped a step. Not sure what it was, but did catch on something. Because the other thing on these is I have lowered all of these as far as they will go, and this is kind of just where I'm going to be. If Steve has a, I'll ping Steve and see if he's got that file that can send over to me. Yeah, I heard it physically something caught. I'm not sure what caught. It could be because once again, I think my water lines are a little bit too long, which still messes with the. So I think my water lines are a little bit too long still, which kind of pushes this down. It's still catching back here on the bands. So we'll keep playing with it. No big deal. We got to break the mechanics in. Preferably not break the mechanics, but we do have to break the mechanics in. And while I'm thinking about it, system, host free. Would increase that a millimeter. And it could be that the silicone is actually pushing the nozzle out, which is causing it. Oh yeah, which could be causing it to kind of drag a little bit. So getting these lowered down a little bit so it's sitting on the silicone sock and not trying to push the top of the silicone back would probably be. Yep. Increase that by 1. Um, okay. Yeah, also, I canceled a print and all of these went to standby. The bed is still active. So that's kind of bad as well. Remind me tonight to send you files. It doesn't mess with adjustments at all to replace the silicone. Yeah, exactly. Um, Tugboat to date, I'm not sure if there is. Did you have a, Kris? Did you have a print file, by the way? Just out here on printables, grabbing files to play around with. Like I said, just doing some test prints and testing things out. Um, so I don't think there is a manual out here in the files. Yeah, they just have the CAD. So bookmark about the 2020. Just have, yeah, it has links to videos. Still doesn't have like a build manual. So it looks like Tugboat. It's basically just those videos by Canrog, And like I said, he did just go through and do new videos for the Rook 2020 Mark II. Well, the problem is I didn't see instructions for the 2020 Mark I when I looked. Because there's not in the downloads. He's got the CAD files if you know how to look at the CADs, but I would say Canrog's videos. I have a Rook 2020 build series as well when I built Orange Dragon. So, yeah. Yeah, Canrog's going through a build series right now. Yeah, remind you tonight to send files. Okay, KB3D, we'll see. Hopefully I'll remind you tonight instead of tomorrow morning. The good news is at least I'm working from home tomorrow, so I'll be able to get those. But yeah, that's going to be the other thing is leaving heaters on after a canceled print. Maybe a bit sketch. Because I'll be honest with you, I was sitting there last night and realized that as you can see the screen with the light pulsating, that's the fact that I've got not just these LED lights on the printer, but all the LED lights in my room are flashing because the bed heater being mains heater, PWM affects all of the LED lights in your rooms, or at least on that same circuit. And yeah, so I had this heater running for like 3 hours last night and didn't realize it was still running. Now the good news is when I come in here and I say print again, it'll already be warmed up. I don't need to wait for it to come up. All right, I will. That is definitely something I'll need to work on. And by the way, hello, LOS Inc. Welcome on in. So, all right, I appreciate that, Kris. And like I said, when I'm done here tonight or tomorrow, I will send you that new config.g file over. It'll have my edits, so you'll see what I've done. So ugh. And I've also noticed, I don't know um if it's the okay, that you saw that just hit and skipped, right? So that was weird. Oh, so I just did the emergency stop, which resets everything. So just to be safe, go through and rehome again. But what I was going to say is I have seen where the um like even doing like standard tool changes, it feels like every once in a while it'll drop the tool off and then sit there for a second before going over and picking up the other tool. Sometimes it moves to the other tool and then waits. And it just seems like it's waiting for the next command to come in. So I don't know if that's because I'm running the Raspberry Pi for the front end versus just running DWC off of the Duet. But I don't know what's just more of asking if that's stuff that other people have seen that are running RepRap firmware with a Raspberry Pi or something else as an SBC. I'll, I'll show you if it manifests. Like I said, it's just weird, and I don't know if it's the, like I said, if almost like the Duet is waiting for commands to process from the Raspberry Pi. I don't know. What Raspberry Pi are you running? Four B 1 gig? Okay. I'll have to double check what I'm running in this. Um, I'll do that after stream because I don't want to do it while the printer's moving. So here's a here's another suggestion, Kris. On the panels where they go around the while it's doing that. So on the panels down here, we have a square cutout, and then right here where the counterweights are, you have that funky cutout that requires you to pinch the cable to get the panels on and off. I think it would ease your fabrication and ease maintenance. Get rid of those because once you get the side panel on, you're going to try and lift your bottom panel up to do something with the electronics, and you're going to have to try and squeeze the cables and pull the plate out or take off all the panels. I know they come off fairly quickly except for the left side, but why do this? Just cut it out. Yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense to me. I mean it's a neat detail, but I think it's a wasted detail. So all right, and I'm having this so you can see that how this keeps catching, and it's catching on the JST connector. And it worries me that it's going to catch on this wire to the stepper motor for the A-lock and yank on it. Hey, Nick, how's it going? Yeah, Kris, I hope you saw the note from Tugboat as to was there a build plate in the stuff that was. I thought the LDO bed kits came with a build plate. Not, but then again, I know the LDO bed kits for B0 also with the polyamide bed also came with the Morn Sun power supply that I'm assuming has needed to be pulled out. Yeah, Rook is supposed to be a blue painter's tape with an unheated bed. That is true. Yeah, so the initial design of the Rook 2020 was to use painter's tape and not have a heated bed at all. It was just a piece of like glass. So yeah, that's gonna be fun. Just got a blob on there. So we'll see if it hits that blob and makes a. It probably will. Yeah, it's good. So my layer height got knocked off because of the blob. Now I'm seeing gapping in layers because that work. These are just minor issues, by the way, nothing major. Um, what happened was the gray um, had blobbed a little bit. So when it went to run the gray, it dropped a blob on the middle of the print. So I don't. You can see it dropped a blob right there, and it hit it, and it raised it up so that you'll see this side here. You see how you see a lot more um, gap? That's because the Z height got knocked off. So That's, I'll say, one of the downsides of a tool changer, or any printer for that matter, is if you get a blob and you hit a blob, it's going to do that. Them all, set everything back up to 0. So I'm wondering if I need to well, we're going to redo all of the, well, I'm going to reprint all of these white pieces anyhow. And when I do that, I'm going to make sure to get those set up so it's definitely wiping. I think the wiper piece is too low. While this is going, I'll see if I can't take one of these. Because, you know, that's what we do, is we work on a printer while it's actively printing, and then we wonder why things go bad. Yeah, so I think part of the problem, I'll flip the camera. Looking anyhow. So you'll see how low this had to be, which is causing it to melt right there. And then the front wipers are so low right now to prevent it from causing other issues that it's not wiping off any little blob that happens to it. So it is what it is. We'll I'll get those new files and start getting those printed. In fact, if you drop those to me on Discord, Kris. Okay. They may be printed in something other than Priline polycarbonate CF. Who knows? Maybe we'll print them in. What do you think, Kris? Would Polymaker Polymaker PA612 CF work? Awesome. Yeah, it would be great if you had a stream this weekend. It would be great. So right now, all of the tools are heated up. Why we're just sitting here. Oh, probably sitting here because I homed the printer and then didn't start the job. Tell you that Luke guy just out there. Out there. Yeah, but don't worry. we're gonna be playing with this weekend on the Saturday stream, and we're gonna be continuing to push plastic and do prints on this, and just keep tweaking and working and playing with this, getting some time on it prior to. All right, did that sound like it just hit again? I kind of wonder if it's having issues with light bars and the fact that it does sag. The my drag chain does sag under its. So when is Murph officially? Murph starts next Friday. Everybody's going to be in setting up their booths and stuff. And it's one of those things that it's not open to the public Friday, but nobody's checking badges either. So, but it will be Saturday and Sunday next week. Not this Saturday, Sunday, but the following Saturday. Yep. Yeah, I mean, this one does have some neater, not neater things, but these are some pretty cool things. Like, Kris, do you have all 5 tool heads now, or do you still just have the 2 tool heads? Because the 5 tool heads, the lights. In fact, I'm gonna turn these off because it's messing with my. Sorry, I'm just getting those parts sliced up so that I can get them going. Okay. Just 2, but maybe that will change this week. What do you mean by just 2? Trying to say that my printer's only a 2? Okay, there you go. No, it's 100. What is the just two? Okay, well, it's cool. It didn't pick up a tool. It, what is going on now? Why is it doing weirdness, Chris? Yeah, at some point, Chris is. Oh, just two tools. Gotcha. You've got the two tool heads. I've got the five. First, yeah, it's got the streaming gremlins. It works great off stream, and then you go to stream with it, and weird stuff happens. Like I run out of coffee. That's horrible. Okay, and so that just hit the side again. So what happened? I almost feel like I've got something off in the config, but mess with the Pro, mess with added comments here that these PID tuned on the 8th of June. All right, thanks, Chris. Thanks for being here. Um, that is like really weird. So this is something I'm going to do. The 36. All right, I'm going to do a force reboot of the whole. Found a new button. Chris redeemed on-screen celebration. All right. Did you find a new button or did you create a new button? So for those of you that don't know, Chris is a mod on my channel. So at some point, I'm going to give him access to my lights back here. And then, yeah, he's going to want to do channel redeem point and let you change colors and probably turn the lights off. Must have had a power outage. Flip it. Okay, so let's try this out. Let's pull them all. Just for giggles. But export this. And we're going to come in here and beat that. Upload G-code file. Make sure we have a good, clean, new file. Nothing. Start this. Yes, we do. Everything up. 32. Now it's going to heat the bed up. Home. Over and does a bed mesh. And just sometimes, every once in a while, you know, power cycle thing. And I really am wondering if it's having issues when it's catching the water lines. Sorry about that. But yeah, we've successfully pushed past it through 3 nozzles. We've successfully done a bunch of tool changes. We have successfully had our first failure, and our second and our third. It's weird. Sometimes, every once in a while, you just need to reboot things and let it fully reset. Like normally on Clipper, you do a firmware restart, but there's times when you can change things in RepRap firmware and it doesn't force you to do a restart. And I just feel like every once in a while you get some, I don't know, some cruft or noise in the system. But I'll have to try and figure out another print to do that may be a little bit longer and have a bunch more tool changes to it. Then decide if I'm going to use these same three sets of filaments or swap some out. Those maybe do like what, the lizard or something like that that a lot of people tend to do. 29 road, blah, blah. Little blobs. Looking nicer. So I need to see if there's a G code that would um, force it to move over to the wipe tower area before doing the tool change. Because by default, the tool change goes back to the position that it ended, which means it's over the print. So if there's any type of blob sitting on the nozzle, it goes to the print, which is going to foul on the print, where if it's over in the wipe tower, it shouldn't have that type of issue. And of course, we still have to go through and do things like our, all of our standard tuning. So, standard calibration stuff, flow rates and linear advance. I haven't done any input shaping on this because I don't have a way of doing it other than the manual input shaping method. I'll have to do that. And in order to do that, I think what I'm going to do is try and build an Orca profile for this and then run all the calibration tests out of Orca. If Prusa Slicer have the calibration test built into it? What does it look like? Oh wow, it's 9:30. So folks, this will take a little while to run. It looks like it's running perfectly fine with no issues. Um, I think what I'm going to do is let this run and keep an eye on it. But it is Thursday night, which means it should be community marble race night over at Big Jano. Um, so let's take a look and who's up and live. I believe Big Jano should be up and running. Not doing marble racing yet. He's playing LED matrix. So thanks, Nick. Um, I I'm happy. I'm impressed. I mean, like I said, we're still working through trying to get the manual flushed out. There's some things that I've noticed that need to be updated in the config file to allow for certain things. Um, if you're building a printer like this, we would expect, we would assume that you've got um, a good background. You're going to have to heat tighten your nozzles. So if you get an error saying, boom, we can't get hot enough, then you would pick, you would know that you would need to go and make some changes. But I think, there's some quality of life improvements that can still be made. And I know I will make some, and I'm sure that Steve Builds will find a few as well. And, that just means that we'll get a little bit better every time that another one of these is built. So that's good. And I'm looking forward to bringing this to Midwest Rep Festival and showing it off at Murph. And until then, I'm just going to try and break it in a bit. Not break it in a bit, get some more prints under its belt, and start trying to find some cool ways of using it with different materials and stuff like that. So with that, folks, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and let's raid on over to Big Jano. Sure, he should be doing marble races at some point. But thank you guys very much for being here. Switch over this scene so we can still watch it print while I do my outro and stuff. But thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate you going on this journey with me. Thank you to KB3D Kris for giving me this base printer so that I can build this out and have a really new cool tool to show you guys, as well as have a cool tool in the shop that we can use to do some really cool things. I do want to try playing around with some like live TPU hinges and stuff like that on some things. This is probably going to force me to learn like CAD, starting to, but I'm going to have to learn some more. It's going to make me learn RepRap firmware and cool ways that we can go and use this to its full potential, right? It's a tool changer. It deserves to go beyond just changing colors of PLA, changing colors of ABS. It really lends itself to mixing materials and using materials for the properties that are specific to it. So I'm looking forward to being able to play with this machine some more and really get to use it to it. So thank you all for being here. Like I said, I'm going to get the raid started over to Jano. Please go with me over, show some love to Big Jano. Tell him all about this cool new printer that we now have printing. I think he's going to be at Murph as well. So, let's get the word out that we're now going to have 2 black boxes, maybe 3 in mind, out at Murph, so that we can get some more hype around this. I think this is really a beautiful printer. So thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great night, and come back Saturday. We'll be printing some more on this and doing some more stuff to get ready for Murph. Have a good night, all. Bye now.